Welcome to the deep dive. We sift through the noise, through all the sources, to bring you those crucial nuggets, those insights on the stuff that really shapes our culture.
And today, we're definitely heading into some, let's say, chemically complex territory.
That's right. Gas masks might be optional for you listening, but we're diving deep into the world of Albuquerque, New Mexico, to unpack one of the absolute titans of television, Breaking Bad.
It's a show that, well, it almost demands this kind of deep dive, doesn't it? Because it just refuses to be pinned down.
Yeah, exactly. When you look at how it's described, the sources label it all over the place. It's a crime drama, sure, but also a thriller.
A neo-Western, definitely. You feel that New Mexico landscape.
Right. And it's got that dark, black comedy edge, but ultimately it lands as a tragedy, a real classic tragedy.
And then that mix of genres, that's kind of its superpower, isn't it? It lets the show pivot, change tone, keep you completely off balance while ramping up the stakes.
And the premise itself is just, well, iconic now. Walter White, brilliant high school chemistry teacher, totally frustrated, gets diagnosed with stage 3 lung cancer.
And his reaction is unconventional.
To say the least. He decides, to secure his family's future.
Okay, Taylor.
By using his genius for chemistry to cook the purest meth imaginable. That signature blue stuff.
And he ropes in his former student, Jesse Pinkman, this sort of small-time dealer, into this massive, life-altering criminal enterprise.
And the whole show, those 5 incredible seasons, they basically cover just 2 years, right? From 2008 to 2010 in this version of Albuquerque.
Right. So our mission today, it's really to push past just the plot summary, Walt's journey from teacher to drug lord. We want to dig into the nitty-gritty.
Yeah, like how this thing even got made, the struggles behind the scenes.
Exactly. The conception, the really rigorous production details, the science, the visuals.
The heavy themes, morality, family pride. The pride.
Definitely the pride. And then, of course, the huge cultural footprint it left behind. We're aiming for those key insights you might have missed.
And we should stress, the acclaim wasn't just hype. It's baked into the numbers. That final season, season 5, got a Metacritic score of 99 out of 100.
99? That's almost unheard of.
It landed in the Guinness World Records back in 2013. Officially the most critically acclaimed TV show of all time based on that score. It really set a new bar for what people called prestige TV.
Which is a perfect lead-in, actually, to where it all began, because this groundbreaking show, this cultural touchstone, it almost didn't happen. The genesis was incredibly risky.
Okay, let's get into that. Vince Gilligan's core idea, because this wasn't just another anti-hero story. He had a very specific theory driving it.
He did. He wasn't interested in a character who just, dips his toe into the dark side. He wanted a protagonist who goes all the way, a complete transformation into an antagonist.
The Mr. Chips into Scarface line. That's his famous pitch, right?
Exactly. And that whole idea, it was kind of revolutionary for TV at the time. Gilligan talked about how television usually keeps characters in what he called self-imposed stasis, so the show can run forever without fundamental change.
Right, like the sitcom reset button.
Pretty much. But Gilligan wanted Breaking Bad to be about the change. Radical, permanent, irreversible change. Watching this seemingly mild-mannered guy consciously choose to become evil, that was the hook.
And networks saw that as risky?
Hugely risky. Commercially, it felt like a tough sell. A show where your hero becomes the villain. Who roots for that?
And the title itself, Breaking Bad, it sounds kind of simple, but there's more to it.
Yeah, the sources dig into the etymology. It's a Southern phrase, means more than just raising hell. It's about defiance, going wild, challenging authority.
But it can also mean something darker, right? Like to dominate or humiliate someone.
Exactly. And that darker shade perfectly mirrors Walt's own journey, from just breaking rules to, breaking people.
It's funny how such a dark concept apparently started as a joke.
It really did. Gilligan was talking with Thomas Schnauz, another writer from the X-Files. Apparently they were both feeling a bit down about job prospects. And they half-jokingly threw out this idea, what if we just put a meth lab in the back of an RV and drive around cooking meth? Just a laugh between friends.
And that became the seed for Breaking Bad. Wow.
But getting that seed to grow, that was the real battle. The number of networks that passed on this is kind of staggering when you think about it now.
Like who? I know Showtime was one.
Yeah, Showtime passed pretty quickly. They already had Weeds, which, superficially, suburban parent dealing drugs.
Yeah,
it sounded similar.
Right. Though Gilligan argued they were totally different beasts.
Oh, completely. He apparently didn't even know about Weeds when he first pitched Breaking Bad. Producers had to convince him they were different enough. Weeds being more of a dark comedy, Breaking Bad aiming for tragedy.
But Showtime wasn't the only one.
No way! HBO passed. Which is kind of ironic, given their history with complex anti-heroes like Tony Soprano. TNT passed, too.
And FX, they considered it.
They did. FX was interested, but according to the sources, they felt they had too many male-led dramas already and opted for a show called Dirt instead, focusing on a female lead.
So it finally lands at AMC.
Right. Gilligan's agent got it to AMC, which was, at that point, still trying to build its original programming slate beyond Mad Men. But even then, it took almost a year just to get the rights deal sorted out. It was a real struggle.
It's just wild to think a show celebrated for its tight, meticulous writing was actually, in a way, saved by something totally out of its control, the writer's strike.
Oh, the 2007-2008 Writers Guild strike. Yeah, that was a huge, unexpected blessing in disguise for the show. Creatively, anyway.
How so? Because it shortened the first season, right?
Exactly. The plan was for 9 episodes, but the strike cut it down to 7. And that original 9-episode plan had a, let's call it a ballsy ending planned.
Ballsy how?
Apparently, either Jesse Pinkman or Hank Schrader was going to be killed off right at the end of season 1. Like, boom, major character gone, cementing Walt's path immediately.
Whoa. Okay, that would have changed everything.
Totally. But because the season got cut short, they had to scrap that ending. And thank goodness they did.
Why was that so crucial?
Because in those first 7 episodes, Aaron Paul as Jesse and Dean Norris as Hank just popped, they became indispensable. Gilligan himself said later that killing either of them off would have been a huge, colossal mistake.
The chemistry between Walt and Jesse and Walt and Hank, it became the core of the show.
Absolutely. Peter Gould, another key writer who went on to create Better Call Saul, he flat out said the strike basically saved the show by forcing them to keep those characters alive. It preserved the dynamics that made the show work long term.
Okay, so the strike saves the characters, but the show itself nearly died later for different reasons. Money.
Yeah, that was the next big hurdle. By the time they got to season 3, the show was costing about $3 million per episode.
Which is a lot for basic cable, especially back then.
A ton. And AMC started getting nervous. There were serious discussions about season 3 being the end. They were considering pulling the plug.
And this is where the whole landscape of TV starts to shift, isn't it? Enter Netflix.
Precisely. This is the famous Netflix effect kicking in. Sony, the production company, they were determined to keep the show alive. So they pushed hard to get the first few seasons onto Netflix right before season 4 started airing on AMC.
Creating the perfect conditions for binge watching.
Exactly. Suddenly, anyone who'd heard the buzz but hadn't jumped in yet could just mainline the first 3 seasons and get totally caught up before season 4 even started.
And the impact was immediate.
Massive. Gilligan directly credits Netflix streaming with keeping the show on the air. He said the binge-watching boom saved them.
And the numbers back that up, right?
Oh, yeah. The viewership for the season 5 premiere was more than double the audience they had for the season 4 premiere. Double.
Wow.
It was a direct result of people discovering and catching up on Netflix. Breaking Bad became one of the first huge examples of how streaming could rescue and amplify a traditional network show. It proved the power of that back catalog.
It's an incredible story. So, okay, they've got the concept. It survived the strike. It survived the budget cuts thanks to streaming. Now let's talk about bringing these unforgettable characters to life.
Yeah.
Starting with Walter White himself. Bryan Cranston seems so perfect now, but it wasn't an easy sell.
Not at all. It was actually a major point of contention internally at AMC. The executives, they primarily knew Cranston from Malcolm in the Middle.
As Hal, the goofy dad.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can see why they'd hesitate.
Exactly. They saw him as a comedic actor. They were apparently pretty reluctant, so much so that they seriously considered other, more established dramatic actors first. John Cusack was approached, Matthew Broderick too.
Cusack or Broderick as Walt, that's hard to picture.
Isn't it? But Gilligan, he was adamant. He insisted it had to be Cranston.
And his conviction came from seeing Cranston in something totally different, right? An old X-Files episode.
That's the one, an episode called Drive from way back in '98. Gilligan wrote that episode, actually.
Oh.
And Cranston played this character, this sort of antagonist, who was, as Gilligan put it, both loathsome and sympathetic at the same time. You hated him, but you felt for him.
And Gilligan saw that complex mix as essential for Walt.
He said Cranston was the only actor he could think of who could pull off that trick, that ability to make you feel conflicting things about him. He knew Cranston could believably make that journey from Mr. Chips to Scarface.
And Cranston really threw himself into it. He didn't just show up and say the lines. He built Walt physically, emotionally.
Oh, totally. Since the backstory was kind of vague in the script, Cranston apparently created this whole detailed history for Walt, all his simmering resentments and failures.
And the physical transformation.
It was deliberate. He gained about 10 pounds to look a bit softer, doughier at the start. He dyed his hair this kind of drab brown. Insisted on that specific wardrobe, lots of beige, muted greens to make him look invisible.
And the mustache. That sad little mustache.
He called it his impotent mustache. Like a dead caterpillar, he said. It was all about conveying Walt's feeling of powerlessness at the beginning.
And his posture, too. That slightly hunched look.
Yeah. He said he modeled that on his own aging father. He wanted Walt to look like he was carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders, even before the cancer. Just constantly burdened. It's really incredible acting, building a character from the outside in and the inside out.
It really is. And, the same kind of dedication, maybe even accidental discovery happened with Jesse Pinkman. Hard to believe he was almost killed off.
It's one of the great what-ifs of the show, isn't it? Jesse was originally just a plot device, Walt's way into the drug world. He was supposed to die in a drug deal gone wrong, like halfway through season 1.
Just imagine Breaking Bad without Jesse. It's impossible.
Utterly impossible. But Aaron Paul's performance, right from the start, it just changed everything. By the second episode, Gilligan said he knew.
Knew what?
That killing Jesse would be a massive mistake. The dynamic between Walt and Jesse, that damaged mentor-student thing, Paul brought such vulnerability to it.
Yeah, Paul described Jesse as this sort of lost soul.
Right. Not inherently bad, just kind of broken by his upbringing, desperate for some kind of guidance, even if it was from, Walter White. Gilligan saw that emotional core and realized he couldn't lose it.
And that commitment to finding the right actors, letting them shape the roles, it runs through the whole supporting cast, too. Like Saul Goodman.
Oh, Bob Odenkirk, fantastic. And his performance wasn't just improv, it had specific roots.
Where did that fast-talking, slippery cadence come from?
He based it on the film producer Robert Evans. Odenkirk listened to the audiobook of Evans's autobiography, The Kid Stays in the Picture, and he heard Evans's way of constantly shifting his tone, his speed.
From salesman to, vaguely threatening.
Exactly. And Odenkirk thought, that's Saul. That constant modulation, you never quite know where you stand with him. It was perfect for that character.
And then you got Mike Ehrmantraut, Jonathan Banks.
The ultimate fixer. Just exudes competence and world weariness. People immediately drew parallels to Harvey Keitel's Winston Wolfe in Pulp Fiction. That same vibe of, I solve problems.
But maybe the most striking example of dedication is R.J. Mitty as Walt Jr.
Oh, absolutely. Mitty has cerebral palsy in real life, but a milder form than Walt Jr.'s character.
So he actually had to make his condition appear more severe for the role.
He did. He talked about having to consciously regress from the progress he'd made in his own physical therapy. He'd stay up really late so his speech would be more slurred, like Walt Jr.'s. He used crutches on set, even if he didn't always need them off set, just to make sure the movement felt authentic to the character.
Wow. To actively undo your own progress for a role? That's intense commitment.
It really underscores the level of detail and authenticity the entire production was aiming for, which leads us perfectly into the science, right? The chemistry wasn't just background dressing in Breaking Bad. It was practically a main character.
It really was. And they clearly wanted to get it right, avoid those typical Hollywood science blunders.
Definitely. They brought in Dr. Donna Nelson, who's a professor of organic chemistry at the University of Oklahoma. She was their key science advisor.
What did she do exactly? Check the formulas.
More than that. She went through the scripts, line by line, making sure the chemistry dialogue sounded authentic, even providing specific lines for Walt and Jesse. She drew the chemical structures you see on the whiteboards and stuff.
So she, and apparently someone from the DEA, helped keep them honest.
Yeah, Gilligan credited them both with vetting the scripts, ensuring the chemistry was accurate, and importantly, up to date with real-world methods and regulations. They didn't want chemists in the audience rolling their eyes.
And the actual methods Walt uses, they change over the course of the show, right? That reflects his evolution.
Absolutely. Initially, he starts with the Nagai method. That uses red phosphorus and iodine, and the key ingredient, the precursor, is pseudoephedrine.
Which comes from cold medicine, the stuff Jesse was supposed to get.
Exactly. It's a well-known but pretty volatile, kind of dangerous method. But then the plot reflects reality crackdowns make pseudoephedrine really hard to get in large quantities.
So Walt has to pivot
Yeah.
to the PTP method.
Right. The phenyl-2-propanone method, using methylamine, it's a more complex industrial-scale process. It requires more sophisticated chemistry knowledge.
Which shows off Walt's superior skill compared to like basic biker cooks.
Precisely. It lets him bypass the supply problems and scale up his operation massively. It's a key part of his transformation into Heisenberg, the kingpin. You see him using things like mercury, aluminum, amalgam for the reduction. It sounds impressive and scientific because it is.
But the most famous thing about his meth, the blue color. That part isn't accurate, is it?
Ah, yes. The blue sky. That's the one big piece of dramatic license they took with the science.
So pure meth isn't blue.
Nope. Extremely pure methamphetamine would actually be clear or whitish crystals. The blue color, which became Walt's unmistakable brand, his signature. Purely fictional.
So what were they using on set for the props?
Just blue rock candy. Apparently it came from a local candy shop in Albuquerque called the Candy Lady. So that iconic blue meth, it's candy.
Huh. That's brilliant. The dedication to science was so intense, though, it actually caught the attention of the Mythbusters.
It did. There was this great back and forth. Several episodes of Mythbusters tackled scenes from Breaking Bad, sometimes even with Vince Gilligan showing up on the episode.
And how did the show's science hold up under their scrutiny? Mostly busted, right?
Mostly busted, yeah. The famous bathtub scene from season 1, where Jesse tries to dissolve a body in hydrofluoric acid and it eats through the tub and the floor.
Busted.
Busted. They showed hydrofluoric acid as nasty stuff, for sure, but it wouldn't dissolve flesh, ceramic, and metal quite like that. Dramatic effect won out over reality there.
What else? The fulminated mercury?
Oh, yeah. Tuco's office scene. Crazy handful of nothing. Walt throws down those crystals. Big explosion. Mythbusters found that, yes, fulminated mercury explodes, but Walt would have needed a lot more of it. Thrown much harder. And the blast probably would have killed everyone in the room, including Walt, not just scare Tuco. So, plausible concept, busted execution.
And the giant magnet truck trying to wipe the laptop?
Also busted. Even Mythbusters Jr. took that one on. The power required is just, well, beyond a magnet you can fit in a truck like that.
Okay, so mostly busted. Did anything get confirmed?
One really cool one did. The machine gun rig in the car trunk from the finale, Felina.
The remote-controlled turret thing.
Yeah. They found that rigging up an automated machine gun like that, while incredibly complex, was actually mechanically plausible. So Walt's final act of vengeance, science says, maybe.
Okay, moving beyond the chemistry, let's talk about the look of the show. It didn't look like anything else on TV. That visual style was so distinct.
A huge part of that credit goes to Michael Slovis, the cinematographer who came on board in season 2. He really defined the show's aesthetic.
And his big inspiration was Westerns, right? Sergio Leone.
Exactly. He explicitly referenced Leone's style. You see it in the framing, the high contrast lighting, those huge wide shots of the New Mexico desert that make the characters look tiny and isolated. It gives it that neo-Western feel, dwarfing human drama against this massive ancient landscape.
And technically, they made a key choice early on that paid off later, shooting on film.
Right. Primarily 35mm film, which at the time maybe seemed old-fashioned as digital was taking over, but it was a brilliant move for longevity.
Because it allowed for that amazing 4K remaster later.
Precisely. Because it was shot on high-quality film, they could go back and create this stunning 4K Ultra HD version that just looks incredible. It preserved all that texture and detail in a way early digital might not have.
And the editing, too, had a very specific style, especially in those montages.
Oh, the meth montages. Kelly Dixon won an Emmy for her editing, and those sequences were her signature.
They weren't just standard cuts, were they?
Yeah, no. She used jump cuts, played with the speeding things up, slowing things down, all within the same sequence. It conveyed the passage of time. Yeah, but also the intensity, the almost ritualistic nature of the cooking process. It became a visual hallmark of the series.
All this technical mastery, the writing, the acting, it all served to explore some really deep, complex themes. It wasn't just a crime show, it was a morality play.
Absolutely. Vince Gilligan has been pretty upfront about the show's underlying philosophy. For him, the big takeaway message is stark. Actions have consequences.
A sense of cosmic justice, almost.
Yeah, he talked about needing personally to see some kind of biblical atonement or justice or karma play out over the course of the series. Things couldn't just happen without repercussions.
But it's not that simple, is it? Critics like Chuck Klosterman pointed out, the show is maybe more about the choice to be bad.
Right. Klosterman argued that Breaking Bad presents good and evil not as fixed states, but as complicated choices made moment by moment. It pushes you, the viewer, to ask, what actually defines someone as bad? Is it their actions, their hidden motives, or is it that conscious decision, that moment they choose to embrace darkness?
That idea of choice versus maybe inherent nature, it leads to interesting comparisons, like with Tony Soprano.
Yeah, Ross Douthat had a great take on that. He saw Walt and Tony as mirror images tackling the problem of evil.
Oh, so?
He argued Walt was the man who starts in the light and deliberately chooses darkness. He consciously decides to become evil. Tony, on the other hand, was kind of born and raised in darkness, a product of his environment, who kept rejecting chances to move towards the light, two sides of the same coin.
And for Walt, the initial justification for that first terrible choice, it was family, right?
Always. The cancer diagnosis, the fear for Skylar, for Walt Jr., for the baby on the way. Providing for them was his stated reason, his shield against the morality of it all.
But that justification gets twisted pretty quickly. Like when Gus Fring convinces him to stay in the business.
Oh, yeah. That's a brutal scene. Skylar's left him, Walt's trying to get out, and Gus basically says, look, it's a man's job to provide for his family, period. Even if they hate you for it, even if you're unloved. It's this incredibly cynical argument that plays right into Walt's deepest insecurities.
But the ultimate gut punch comes in the finale, when he finally tells Skylar the truth.
That scene is devastating. After everything, all the lies, he finally admits it. I did it for me. I liked it. I was good at it. And I was alive.
Chilling.
Yeah.
It wasn't about family in the end. It was about him, his ego, his own sense of power.
It completes the tragedy. His self-actualization was his destruction.
But it's interesting, that theme of family. It's not just Walt's motivation. It drives almost everyone, even the villains.
It's a crucial link, yeah. Think about Tuco Salamanca. Volatile, psychotic, but fiercely protective of his uncle Hector. Remember him taking care of him?
Yeah. And the cousins. Their whole existence was about family revenge. La familia es todo.
Exactly. And Gus Fring's entire meticulous years-long vendetta against the Salamancas, it all stemmed from them killing his partner, Max, his chicken brother. That was his family.
Even Mike. Everything Mike did, all the dirty work.
Was to leave money for his granddaughter, Kaylee. That was his sole focus. It provides this weird, distorted code of ethics across the criminal underworld. Even Jack Welker, the neo-Nazi, pauses before killing Walt, out of a twisted respect for family ties with Todd.
So family is this powerful, motivating force for good and mostly for ill in this world. But if there's one force even stronger in Walt, it's pride. Hubris.
Oh, absolutely. Gilligan even pinpointed the exact moment he believes Walt truly broke bad. And it wasn't cooking that first batch of meth.
When was it then?
Season 1, Episode 5, Gray Matter. When his old friends, Gretchen and Elliot Schwartz, offer to pay for his cancer treatment, no strings attached, just help.
And Walt turns them down.
Yeah.
Flat out refuses.
Out of pure wounded pride. His history with them, with the company Gray Matter, his feeling that they cheated him, his ego couldn't handle accepting their charity.
So that decision, rejecting help and choosing crime instead, that was the real point of no return. Driven purely by pride.
According to Gilligan, yes. That choice, born of hubris, set everything else in motion. It made the crime unnecessary from a purely financial perspective. It became about Walt proving something to himself and to them.
And that theme gets hammered home later with the Ozymandias episode.
Oh, yeah. Season 5, Episode 14, widely considered one of the greatest episodes of television ever. And the title is key.
It's from the Shelley poem, right, about the ruined statue of a forgotten king.
Exactly. The poem is all about the fall of a prideful, arrogant ruler whose empire crumbled to dust. And the episode shows Walt's empire doing the exact same thing, losing his money, his family turning on him, Hank's death. It's a total collapse brought on by his own hubris. The parallel is intentional and powerful.
There's also that Walt Whitman connection running through the show.
Right. Walt's name, obviously. Right. But more specifically, the copy of Leaves of Grass that Gail Boetticher gives him.
Gail, his doomed lab assistant.
Yeah. Gail sees Walt as this fellow genius, this artist of chemistry. The book becomes a symbol of Walt's pride in his secret work, his other life.
And it becomes his downfall.
The ultimate irony. Hank finds the book in Walt's bathroom, sees the inscription from Gail, "To my other favorite WW," and boom, Heisenberg is revealed. All because Walt couldn't let go of that little token to his own ego. His pride literally exposed him.
Walter White became this huge cultural figure, maybe being admired in a weird way. But the reaction to Skylar White, his wife, That was something else entirely.
Oh, the backlash against Skylar was intense. And frankly, pretty disturbing. It really kicked off a lot of necessary conversation about sexism and the way audiences react to female characters, especially wives, in these kinds of anti-hero narratives.
Anna Gunn, the actress, she even wrote about it, didn't she?
She did. A powerful op-ed in the New York Times in 2013 called I Have a Character Issue. She talked about the sheer vitriol aimed at Skylar online.
And she compared it to how other TV wives like Carmela Soprano or Betty Draper were treated.
Yeah, she argued that these characters, who are often complex and strong women reacting to impossible situations, get judged by a completely different, much harsher standard than their criminal husbands. Skylar was smart, tough, trying to protect her kids, but she got mountains of hate for not just, going along with Walt.
Did Gilligan ever weigh in on that?
He did, later on. He acknowledged that the show was structured from Walt's perspective, which inherently biased the audience against Skylar. He admitted the narrative was kind of rigged against her.
Because we see the world through Walt's justifications most of the time.
Exactly. Even when Walt wasn't physically in a scene, his viewpoint often shaped how events were presented. Gilligan said he was still troubled by the intensity of the hate years later, and that Anna Gunn absolutely didn't deserve it. He even noted that Gus Fring, a ruthless drug lord and murderer, didn't get the same level of personal venom online as Skylar did.
That's quite something. Despite that controversy, though, the show's success just kept growing, critically and commercially.
Oh, overwhelmingly. We mentioned the Guinness World Record. It dominated the awards shows, too.
How many Emmys did it win in the end?
16 primetime Emmys over its run, including Outstanding Drama Series twice. Cranston got lead actor 4 times, Aaron Paul got supporting actor 3 times, Anna Gunn won supporting actress twice. Just consistent recognition across the board for writing, directing, acting, everything.
And the audience growth was just phenomenal, especially after that Netflix deal.
Exponential is the word. That binge-watching effect was real. The series finale pulled in over 10.3 million viewers live on AMC.
Which made it one of the most watched cable finales ever.
Absolutely. It proved that a show could build its audience slowly, methodically, and then explode thanks to new ways people were watching TV.
And that success naturally led to more Breaking Bad.
Well, more stories in that universe, yeah.
Yeah.
The demand was huge, so we got the prequel series Better Call Saul, focusing on Bob Odenkirk's character, which itself became incredibly acclaimed.
A masterpiece in its own right, many argue.
Definitely. And then the movie El Camino, which served as a sequel, giving Jesse Pinkman some closure after the events of the finale.
But the show's influence didn't just stay on screen. It seeped into the real world in some weird ways.
It really did. Like, law enforcement actually started reporting seizures of blue-tinted crystal meth, not because it was better, but because dealers were coloring it blue to mimic Walt's famous blue sky, trying to cash in on the show's notoriety.
Life imitating art in a pretty dangerous way.
Yeah. But Albuquerque, the city itself, really embraced its connection to the show.
They had a funeral for Walter White.
A mock funeral service, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a charity fundraiser, raised almost $17,000 for a local healthcare organization. People really connected with these characters, even the villains.
And they put up statues.
In 2022, yeah. Bronze statues of Walter White and Jesse Pinkman were commissioned and donated to the city. They're basically local icons now.
On the less positive side, the pizza problem.
Ugh. The pizza. Yeah, Vince Gilligan had to publicly plead with fans to stop throwing pizzas onto the roof of the actual house they used for the White residents.
People were reenacting that scene from season 3, Caballo Sin Nombre.
Constantly. It became a huge nuisance for the poor people who actually lived there. They had to install fences and security. It's a downside of having your house become a pop culture landmark, I guess.
And beyond the fan stuff, the show even got serious academic attention. Legal scholars.
It did. The New Mexico Law Review dedicated a whole issue to it. 8 different scholarly articles analyzing the legal issues raised in Breaking Bad.
Like what?
Things like, the complexities of attorney-client privilege with a lawyer like Saul Goodman, or whether Walt could have sued Gretchen and Elliot over gray matter. Real, deep legal analysis of a fictional world.
That's maybe the ultimate testament to the detail and realism they built into that world. It holds up to actual legal scrutiny.
It really is. So, wrapping up this deep dive, We've seen the incredible gamble of Gilligan's core concept, the protagonist becoming the antagonist. We've seen how external factors like the writer's strike and, crucially, Netflix shaped its survival and success.
We've covered the dedication to getting the science mostly right and the craft behind those iconic visuals and performances.
And we've wrestled with those heavy themes: morality, family, the corrosive nature of pride, and the sometimes uncomfortable way audiences reacted, especially to Skylar.
Which brings us to our final thought for you, the listener. It circles back to that core question of choice versus maybe destiny or character.
We established that Walt had a clear off-ramp early on. Gretchen and Elliot offered him the money for his treatment. No crime needed. He refused, purely out of pride.
So, does his ultimate downfall, losing everything, simply prove Gilligan's point? Actions have consequences. He made bad choices, he paid the price. End of story.
Or does that powerful Ozymandias parallel suggest something else? Was his collapse inevitable from the moment he started building his empire, driven by that immense, fatal flaw of hubris? Was his fate sealed by who he was, regardless of the specific choices along the way?
Was it the choices or the man himself? You've got the data, the details from our dive today. Which angle feels more true to you when you think about the whole tragic arc of Walter White?
Something to chew on. It's what makes the show endlessly fascinating.
Indeed it is. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into the complex chemistry of Breaking Bad.